Peoples, top of the morning. It is Wednesday, February 14th, and I am here with your geopolitical news. Al Jazeera reports Israel forces Palestinians to leave Gaza hospital. Dozens of Palestinians have been filmed leaving Nazareth Hospital in Khan Yunis after Israeli forces ordered the evacuation of everyone in the complex. Witnesses say Israeli snipers have been firing on anyone who moved in the area, and several people have been killed near the hospital. So I'm going to play some of this video to give you guys some context as to what's been seen happening on the ground there. But just from the paragraph that I read, you already have context to what's happening. The hospital has been ordered to be evacuated. And so all of these Palestinians have been forced to leave. And as the paragraph just said, there's snipers firing on anyone who is caught in the area, who returns to the area, or who is still there in the area. So now, as you can see, the people are being forced to leave. There's tanks moving into the area. I mean, just look at this. And you know, the images, like I said, these images are in real time. And so they're using drones, they're using tanks. Look what they're doing. And it's like, these are innocent people. These are civilians. Day after day, time after time, we are forced to watch this horror, this tragedy. This is appalling. And once again, there seems to be a common narrative because I'm seeing children being shot, children being injured. And so if you would attack civilians in a medical facility, then it's safe to say that you are of pure evil. And there's absolutely nothing that's off limits to you. In other geopolitical news, Al Jazeera reports rocket fire from Lebanon causes casualties in Israel. A barrage of rockets fired from Lebanon hit northern Israel on Wednesday, where media reported that one person had been killed and several injured. The Lebanese armed group Hezbollah has said cross-border firing would only end with a ceasefire in Gaza. Once again, there's a video. I'm going to play a little bit of the video to give you guys some context. But you guys already know basically why this is happening and why this continues to happen. And the freedom fighters Hezbollah has already informed the world that this will only stop if there is a complete ceasefire in Gaza. And so I'm not surprised by this. I really don't have any commentary about it because I understand perfectly why it's happening. And you understand perfectly why it's happening as well. And this is just to give you guys some context. And so you guys can see exactly what's going on the ground there. Now, this is obviously in Israel, which has been a black box of sorts because they're only showing us what they want to show us. They're only letting us see images that they want us to see. And so we really are unprivy to what's going on inside of Israel. So they're saying that there were casualties from the rockets that were launched from Lebanon to Israel. And as I said before, Hezbollah, the freedom fighters of Hezbollah, have already claimed responsibility. And not only have they claimed responsibility, but they've also informed the world, as I repeat, this would only stop when there is a complete ceasefire in Gaza. In other geopolitical news, Al Jazeera reports Russia's Putin signs law to seize assets of those who discredit military. Latest attempt to crush dissent comes into effect ahead of presidential elections in March. So now, what do I think about this? Well, it's almost the same as the United States of America. You know, a lot of these countries, they manipulate things into their favor, especially when it comes time for elections and, the changing of regimes, the changing of governments, and the repealing of policies and the creation of new policies. So it's like, when you see the systems that are in place and you see the games and the tactics that are being played, it's not surprising. As I said before previously, I report these stories so that you guys can be informed. But other than that, none of these things, well, some of them surprise me, but not something as trivial as this. Um, you know, I don't know whether to call the elections and the policies of Russia a democracy or what may have you. I don't know what to call it. I know that President Putin runs Russia almost as if it's under a dictatorship. And so most of us feel when we view Russia, when we view it as such. But it's actually not true. They actually have elections and there can be a new president. Now, whether there will be, that's a different question entirely. But nonetheless, they do have a process of such. So, like I said, this doesn't surprise me. I've even gone as far as to say that I believe that if Donald Trump is elected back into the presidency, I believe that he will do something to extend his presidency. I believe that something will happen that will trigger an extension of his presidency. And so it will be something that is unprecedented in the United States of America, meaning it has never been done before. But I believe that there is something in place. There is a plan in place to extend the presidency for a longer period of time. And so, as I said before, none of these things surprise me, and they should not surprise you. In other geopolitical news, Al Jazeera reports South Africa urges ICJ to consider action on Israel's planned Rafah assault. World Court asked to order additional emergency measures ahead of an assault on Gaza City crammed with displaced people. South Africa says it has asked the World Court to consider whether Israel's plan to extend its offensive in the Gaza Strip into the densely populated southern city of Rafah requires additional emergency measures to protect Palestinians. The International Court of Justice last month ordered Israel to take all measures within its power to prevent its troops from committing genocide against Palestinians in the besieged Gaza Strip in a case brought by South Africa. At this point, I think what is fair is whatever is asked of Israel, it should be delivered. Whatever is being asked of Israel at this point, there should be no contest. There should be no refuting whatever is asked at this point. I think enough has been done to the point where it would warrant every aspect of the military campaign to be scrutinized. I think enough has been done to the point where we must examine every move that is being made by such a military. And so now what's being said is that the Israelis are planning a military campaign in the city of Rafah. And there are a lot of displaced people in this city. And so the International Court of Justice just 1 month ago ordered that Israel must take provisions in moving forward. They also must report monthly reports to the International Court of Justice as it relates to their military campaign, the casualty rate, and everything in between moving forward. And so I think that this is only fair that South Africa is asking the International Court of Justice to impose more provisions. Because just the other day, I reported the fact that after the International Court of Justice ruling, Israel continued its military campaign in a fashion that would raise alarm to the measures that were supposed to be imposed. And as I've said before, you know, President, well, not President, but Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has already publicly announced the fact that nothing will stop Israel. Nothing will stop its military campaign. So if this is in fact the truth, and this is in fact how this individual feels, then the International Court of Justice and its ruling has no bearing. It is being ignored. And so, as I said previously, I believe this is only fair. I believe this is only right. South Africa isn't asking for anything that is outside the realm of what the International Court of Justice has already ordered. If they've already ordered for you to take extreme measures when moving forward, if they've already ordered for you to give reports about your military action, then this is right in line with the provisions and the measures that were ordered by the International Court of Justice. In other geopolitical news, I'm on a YouTube platform on Mark Lamont Hill's channel. And, you know, I've been consuming his content, and he's another source of information. So, as you see the title, U.S. Senate funds genocide in Gaza by passing pro-Israel spending bill. So now, I was waiting for information because there was supposed to be another bill that was passed that would also um, send money to Ukraine. And so this is basically an update as it relates to the bill that was passed. Now, I don't know if it includes that or if this is a totally separate bill and they stand alone. So we're going to get into this video and we're going to react. I'm going to give you a breakdown of what's being said.
Talk about the U.S. Senate, which today finally did something. So many days, U.S. Senate don't do nothing. So many days, U.S. Senate doesn't manage to pass any legislation, or they don't manage to get past the gridlock and the political stunts and all the other antics that emerge. And yet today, they did something, and the thing they did was morally atrocious. It was gross, and we're going to talk about it today. But let me give a couple shout outs real quick as we get started here tonight. RK.
So now you heard what he just said. The thing that they did was morally atrocious and gross. You understand? Morally atrocious and gross.
So today, the United States Senate passed a bill. The U.S. Senate passed a bill. That in and of itself is monumental because the U.S. Senate don't pass too many bills. The U.S. Senate doesn't get too much going these days. There's so much gridlock. Everything is a filibuster. Everything needs a super majority. Everything, people need 60 votes to get the most basic elements of government handled. So this is already somewhat of a shock. But today, after much hullabaloo, after much fighting, they finally passed a 95 million, excuse me, take million off the table. That's crazy talk. They passed a $95 billion bill, a military spending bill, a $95 billion spending bill that provides aid to Taiwan, but more significantly, more robustly, aid to Ukraine and aid to Israel. I'm not a Ukraine.
Okay, so now there's clarity on the article, the post that I made, the video that I made yesterday. So all three are attached to the one bill. So the bill is for many billions of dollars. And Ukraine, Taiwan, and Israel is a part of this bill. Aid packages for each of these countries are a part of this bill. Now, what was appalling to me is when I found out that us as American citizens, what was being um, thrown out, or the rumors that I was hearing, was that this bill would not only last through 2024, but it would effectively go through 2025 and into 2026. And it was also talking about the fact that this bill being passed will leave whatever president is, the active president at the time, whoever's newly elected this year, as it is an election year in the United States of America, whoever is elected into office, this will bind the newly sitting president to this bill. And there will be nothing that the president can do to repeal it.
Expert. I'm not going to get into Ukraine too much. I have thoughts, but that's another conversation for another time. I'm not going to get into Taiwan. Again, I have thoughts, but that ain't what we're here for today. This bill of the $95 billion is providing $14 billion to the state of Israel right now. $14 billion. Now, let's be very clear. The United States gives almost $4 billion to Israel every year just because. They do it to provide weapons. They do it to provide defense systems. They do it to make.
So now I do believe that, okay, if 14 billion is going to Israel, then I believe the 60 billion that I posted about the US trying to send 60 billion dollars to Ukraine, that number might also be accurate. You understand? And so the 60, plus the 14 billion only puts it at 74 billion. And if it's 95 billion, then, you know, there's a whole nother 19 billion that's left, around about $19 billion that's left that will probably end up going to Taiwan.
Maintain what they call a qualitative military edge. They are effectively funding Israel so that Israel always has the strongest army in the region, so that they always have an advantage, a military advantage over their neighbors
Excuse me, not 19 billion, but 20 billion.
in Jordan, their neighbors in Syria, their neighbors in Egypt, um, their neighbors in Palestine, in the West Bank, in Gaza, etc. So it's not like they're just giving the basic necessities. They're giving them an extra $14 billion as they prosecute the war on Gaza. Well, the bunny says it right. Chuck Schumer was shameless today. Chuck Schumer championed this bill. Chuck Schumer spoke out about this bill. Chuck Schumer said, you know what, this is a great day. Now, for those who don't know, or you're not from the United States, Chuck Schumer is the Senate Majority Leader. And he said, quote, it's certainly been years, perhaps decades, since the Senate has passed a bill that so greatly impacts not just our national security, not just the security of our allies, but the security of Western democracy. And I got to say, as disgusting as the bill was, that quote is actually accurate, because this bill is not about justice. This bill is about American security. It's about the security of Israel and the security of Ukraine. And it's about preserving Western democracy. The problem is Western democracy is imperial democracy. Western democracy is structured in such a way that it depends upon the unfreedom, the lack of liberation, the lack of justice, the intense and protracted oppression of other people. So, yes, this bill, this pro Israel spending bill, is doing exactly what it's designed to do. Now, you might say, well, we always give Israel money. Yes, more money, but what's the big deal? The big deal is right now there is a genocide taking place in Gaza.
Right. And as I've said previously, what point would it be to give a highly sophisticated military already military aid? What are you giving them aid for? What hardship are they facing that they need such aid for? What do they need $14 billion from the United States of America and its taxpaying citizens? What do they need this money for? $14 billion spent in the United States of America could go astronomical ways, astronomical lengths. The amount of people that it could save in the United States of America that's facing hardships is just astronomical. It's something that if it's even thought of, is something that can help so many people. But yet you rather send this to a country that's not only committing genocide, but absolutely does not need your help.
Gaza. There is a whole full-fledged genocide taking place in Gaza. And as this genocide in Gaza is taking place, the U.S. government is doing the opposite of what it has been trying to suggest for the last few weeks that it is doing. What the U.S. did, what the White House has done in the media is leak stories that Biden is calling Netanyahu a son of a b. Oh, Biden is angry at Netanyahu for continuing the fight. Anthony Blinken is walking around, traveling around the Middle East, trying to broker peace and trying to get them.
And this is what I'm talking about. So it's like it's a bunch of rhetoric because on one hand, you're saying that there's an issue and Biden has a problem and Biden is upset. And this is what I said previously. And so it's almost like I'm repeating myself day after day because I'm repeating the same things because it's the same sentiment when you hear these stories. And so now the stories keep coming out that these individuals are upset. They don't like what's going on. They don't like how Israel is handling the military campaign. But yet and still, bills are still being passed and funding is still being sent to this genocidal regime.
engage in a ceasefire, but they can't say it. The U.S. media apparatus has tried to leak to us, has tried to suggest to us this narrative that while there is an ugly, bloody, violent bombardment, full-fledged destruction of the Gaza Strip, the U.S. might not be doing anything to stop it, but we really don't like it. We really think it's disgusting. We really disagree with Netanyahu.
Exactly. So yeah, we really don't like it. We really think it's bad. But yet we're gonna still keep continuing to send them money. We're gonna keep continuing to not call for what the world knows should be a ceasefire at this very moment. It should have been a ceasefire. We should not be witnessing what we're witnessing. We should not continue to witness it in real time. But yet, and still, we are.
We're just doing it privately so that we can get the resolution more quickly. Now, there is some truth to that. I think the U.S. probably does prefer if the violence were to stop. They're just not willing to lose any capital over it. They're not willing to lose any power over it. They're not willing to compromise a relationship over it because ultimately they don't want justice for the Palestinian people. They want what's safe. They want what's productive for them. And honestly, a ceasefire at this moment is probably better for the U.S.'s security interests. So yeah, I don't doubt that the U.S. doesn't want Israel to keep killing everybody, but they don't want the balance of power to change because Israel is a U.S. client state. Because Israel is an outpost, is a Middle East outpost of the United States' national interest. So yeah,
So yeah, you might not like what's happening, but you do not want or need a change of power in Israel at this moment. And so you would much you would much like for this situation to go away. But I'm afraid that you might be so deep into it at this point that you cannot and it cannot. You cannot back out of it and it will not go away. And so the only thing that you can do is keep pushing forward. And sadly, you know, you and I, the American average citizen, we're going to suffer. You know, this government is responsible for so many diabolical things. As I sit here and I'm talking to you and I'm covering this story, which is something that is of another diabolical nature of this government of the United States of America, but there's so many things. I covered a story that was done by Tucker Carlson where he interviews Florida Surgeon General on the COVID-19 vaccines and the lies and deception. You guys should go check that video out because, again, this speaks to the nature of the very people who are running this country. This speaks to the nature of people who are running countries around the world who are conducting themselves in such a way. We all need to wake up and pay attention. And not only wake up and pay attention, but we all need to mobilize and come together for what we feel is just practices and just policies. We need to reform this country and we need to reform countries alike. We are human civilization. We need to take back control because we are totally in control. And somewhere along the lines, we have lost sight of our power and our control, and we have given it up. We have forfeited it to a selective few, and we've allowed them to govern us. But what do you do when the selective few fail time and time and time again? What do you do when the system is broken and the system keeps failing time and time and time again? So when I say mobilize and we need to come together, we all need to come together as the human race collectively, not separately, fighting separate issues. No, collectively, fighting all issues as one. as one unit, moving on one accord. All right, people. Follow Street Icon on all social media platforms. That's at Street Icon 8080 on the YouTube platform, at Street Icon 1 on the X platform, formerly known as Twitter. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about the stories that I brought to you. Specifically and exactly, how do they make you feel? Did you know about them? Drop a comment in the comment section. And always remember, stay vigilant, stay safe. Peace.